presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hello and welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Scratch a Track presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude and with me as always is Grim. How we doing there, Grim?
I am here and doing fine, Duderino.
That's what I like to hear, my friend. Just as we let everyone know on the previous episode, we will do again here. We can now be found on all major podcasting platforms as well as all major social media platforms. All you need to do is choose your platform of choice, type in Scratch a Track, and we should pop up. And if we don't, well, type us in again. Keep looking. Find us. We're there. Trust me. Trust me. So today, Grim, we have kind of a different album, and I'm not exactly sure how to kind of describe it. So I will let everyone know what album we're doing and kind of your initial thoughts on what type of album it is.
Okay. Well, it is called the Gray Album. And I think at this point it is still only available via underground means. It's the first mashup album that we've done. In fact, it's really the first mashup album I can say that I ever really heard and got into. And it is a mashup of the a cappella vocal tracks from Jay-Z's Black Album and background samples from the Beatles' self-titled album, otherwise known as the White Album, Black and White Gives You Gray. And exactly. Before we get into it, I mean, you can say there was a lot of controversy behind it. As an avid Beatles fan, and especially at the time not listening to a whole lot of rap, I thought upon hearing about it, I would absolutely hate the album. It was our buddy Gorman that told me about the album, and I thought it was just like a complete sacrilege. I didn't even necessarily want to listen to it because I had preconceived notions that it would be terrible, but it quickly became one of my favorites and actually got me listening to rap music again at that time because it was so good and so well done. Yeah. And I think that's how I heard it, because I knew you would listen to it. I didn't know Gorman was the one who kind of brought it to you, but I think I probably would have had the similar reaction of like, dude, screw that, man. You can't mess with the Beatles. Oh, you're gonna cut up a bunch of Beatles songs and you're gonna like put them over or put them under like Jay-Z rapping and stuff. Yeah, that was exactly my thought, and I thought this is bullshit. But then you listen to it, and you being, having edited music and understanding that process. And even for me, just even coming from like a video editing background, like I understand the process and how much time and work and energy like goes into it. Dude, this wasn't just your little like kind of run of the mill, hey, I'm going to take a few sections here, put some loops together, and then put Jay-Z's vocals over it. Yeah, this is unbelievable because it's not like a normal remix where a lot of times if somebody remixes something like a DJ, they'll have access to the individual tracks that make up a song. Yep. But in this case, you're talking all he had was the 2-track stereo version of these songs that we know. Album. And I mean, he pulled out drum beats and just these little bits and pieces that it's almost like fun and a challenge to listen to in its own right in that way if you're a fan of the album, just to know where the hell he got them from. Yeah, absolutely. No, I listened to this album a lot in the past week or so, and some of them, and we'll get into this a little later, some of them, like, I know it says that it's this Beatles song, but man, it's tough to really, really
you have to really know this stuff and some of their songs and little beats and pieces here to be like, oh yeah, that's totally it, to be able to pick it out. So yeah, it was very cool hearing it. And one thing I don't know if you take issue with this. I guess maybe I take a little issue with it because I've seen mashups done really bad. And so to me, I almost feel like this isn't something I would call a mashup. And in fact, DJ Danger Mouse, aka Brian Burton, he called it a deconstruction. And I think that's a really good way of kind of
I think maybe
down.
that's fair, because I think with a mashup, for some reason the artist, I don't know if you know this artist, Girl Talk, Greg Gillis comes to mind.
Sure.
Where his stuff
name, yeah.
is actually mashups, because you're taking these two things and overlaying them. But you're right. I think deconstruction is a lot better way to describe what was done here.
Sure.
Really.
Sure. Yeah. Well, before we get, I think, a little deeper into the album, I want the people out there to understand like who this person is. You know, he's known as DJ Danger Mouse, but his real name is Brian Burton, and he has been a producer, a co-songwriter, co-album creator on some of the most popular hit songs, and worked with some of these top-notch bands. So let me go through like his scorecard, and I think it'll surprise a lot of people. A lot of people will know him. He was the other half of Gnarls Barkley, which created with CeeLo Green. They had a few hits. I think people are familiar with their work. Yeah. He formed Broken Bells with James Mercer from the Shins. They've put out a couple of really good popular albums, had hits. He produced the Gorillaz album, Demon Days, Beck's album, Modern Guilt, 4 albums from the Black Keys he produced. Attack and Release, Brothers, El Camino, and Turn Blue.
I didn't know he did Brothers. Wow.
Yeah. He also produced and co-wrote albums by Red Hot Chili Peppers, Norah Jones, and Adele. He's been nominated for 22 Grammys and won 6. I mean, that's a career, man. Like that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that, and I don't know how I feel like he maybe doesn't get enough credit. Where you hear about some of these other producers and people. I mean, they're kind of like a dime a dozen, I feel like, in the pop world a little bit.
I would agree with that. And they're really good at doing that, but I don't think they have this kind of creativity.
No, absolutely.
Because he can play a lot of instruments pretty well, like very well.
Dude, I've seen Broken Bells play live. He plays the drums. That's. I mean, it's pretty cool, man. Like he's good at what he does. So I hope that gives people a little bit of background that this isn't just, I mean, he may have been in the basement at the time or whatever, but like this is a serious, intense musician who is an artist and very creative. And he did something pretty incredible here. And he's been around and he's worked with a lot of top-notch people in the industry.
Well, and to put it in perspective, okay, so he did the Gray album, it's credited as 2004. The next year he did the Gorillaz album Demon Days, which was a fairly big album in its own right.
yeah, definitely. So, so it's interesting. So obviously this is a mashup, or I mean, I guess we can call it that, or a deconstruction. But he's taking copywritten material and putting it together and putting it out. Now, Jay-Z didn't have a problem with that.
No, because he released the Black Album as a cappella for that reason.
Yeah, right. But he didn't have a problem with it. Paul McCartney didn't have a problem with it. Ringo Starr didn't have a problem with it. But you know who had a problem with it? The record label, EMI.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got wind of this and found out that it was like a hit and people were into it, like they sent cease and desist letters, all that stuff. Kind of,
which it's really that's really sad, because I mean, I'm sorry, they've you can only imagine the shitload of people that the Beatles royalties have made rich, other than them, mind you, people at EMI. So at some point, it's just kind of like piss off. Like he didn't even do it with the intention of making money.
No,
it was an art project for him.
Yep, and that's and Paul McCartney said he was like he didn't mind. He was like the record company is the one that minded. He was like, dude, take it easy, guys. Like this is a tribute. And if anything, it's also promoting, like it's almost like advertising for the Beatles and the White Album.
Well, sure, because
I mean,
you could have the reverse too, where maybe there's people who don't know about that, and this would prompt them to.
Exactly. You have maybe some people who are really big Jay-Z fans. They're like, wow, this is pretty cool. This guy took, Jay-Z's Black Album and mixed it with the White Album. I've never listened to the White Album. Maybe I should go do that. So
yeah.
Record companies, man. Record companies.
The almighty dollar, duder.
So, yeah. So initially, it was just kind of intended to have, I think, a 3,000 copy release. And he put out a few tracks and people kind of latched onto him and got wind of it. And then, of course, EMI got wind of it. But then there was, they basically had a day called Gray Tuesday, February 24th, 2004, where all these websites, everybody who had access to it, they put it up for 24 hours. And within that 24-hour period, they got over 100,000 downloads. So people were able to get it. From my understanding, you can still find it on the internet. I haven't looked for it recently because I have it. I actually looked for it on Spotify. And here's the thing, it shows up. All the tracks and everything show up.
But you can't play it, I bet.
But you can't play it. Everything is kind of grayed out, no pun intended. So yeah, it is. It's out there and you can find it. We're not going to put any links to it or anything like that because we don't want to get in trouble. But last thing we need is EMI coming after us. So I mean, we're just the dude.
But if you don't have it, figure out how to get a hold of it because you definitely want it.
Yeah, you definitely need it. And if nothing else, you'll appreciate it. And I think you've said this, and I feel the same way. I actually, if instead of listening to Jay-Z's Black Album, I listen to this.
I do too.
This is what I listen to.
And that's one thing I was going to talk about is maybe I was somewhat jaded because I listened to this first and really liked it.
Yep.
But there is one or two songs that I think are equally good on either album. But for and one of them that's actually better on the Black Album. But other than that, to me, it's not even close. I mean, they're just, it's funny because and not that the beats and whatever aren't good in their own right, but to me, a lot of that album is, he talks about a lot of things, but some of it is like more personal, and talking about his childhood and his parents and his upbringing.
Yeah. His mom's on the album.
Well, yeah,
great.
true.
It's really good. Yeah.
And so with that, I kind of like the fact that those songs, especially the samples that they use, they kind of make it have more of like a darker personal feel as opposed to just a beat.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel that for sure. I definitely feel that in the album. And this must have taken definitely some time to put together. But I mean, going back, like it's weird for me to listen because I've listened to the Grey Album so much. Like that's my go-to. So when I hear songs off the Black Album, to me it sounds weird.
Yeah,
it doesn't. I'm like something's wrong. So I definitely have gravitated towards the Grey Album.
Well,
it's really cool.
And a lot of them are so different. That's the thing. They're like a world apart. And to me, the only one that's really that close is 99 Problems. And
I was just gonna say that
closer to what Rick Rubin did. But I mean, dude, like
it did.
Rick Rubin wouldn't have made a sweet track.
Crazy for this one, Rick.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little. I mean, I have a little more to say about that when we get to that track. But yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting because just talking about overall the album as a whole. The Jay-Z part is pretty much all it's his acapella stuff, and then Brian Burton or Danger Mouse took these little snippets in a lot of the track. I mean, some of them are very minute and detailed. So there's other parts that are a little kind of bigger and longer, but a lot of it is a very detailed edit to create the beat that he wanted to create.
Like what he did with what is it, Dirt Off Your Shoulder and Julia. I mean, he took the slightest little one stroke of one string and just amazing.
Now, you would probably know this or be able to speak to this a little better than I can. Did he add in any of his like personal kind of beats? Because some of the beats hit pretty hard. I mean, did he do that with the Pro Tools?
So.
Or no,
I think what he did for a lot of it, because if you listen to the album, you can find little parts where you'll get an almost completely isolated drum hit.
Okay.
And one of those is at the end
Ringo.
Of well, and one of those is at the end of Long, Long, Long. Which at the end, I think as like something's fading out, there's like a there's like, or maybe it's Mother Nature's son, but there's this moment where you can get like a nice kick drum hit almost on its own. And
I think it is Mother Nature's son. I think right.
And if you go through the album, you can find those little snippets and then at least accentuate what's there.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, Grim. I don't want to rip on Ringo. All right, this is not what this is, and this is how the songs were constructed and everything. But I think there is a part of me that thinks that sometimes the simplicity of some of his drum parts and the things that he put in actually really helped out and lended itself to being able to take those snippets in those beats and isolate them, because there's not a whole lot going on in certain drum parts and pieces. Like I feel like a lot of those parts are isolated, and he was able to take those and really kind of isolate them and help make the beat out of it. It just seems like that does kind of help, having the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Or if you had somebody like, I don't know, Keith Moon or John Bonham, just like all over the place.
I don't know if you could do it with the Keith Moon drum part.
Right. I mean, dude. So yeah, I think that definitely helped out a lot. But and again, it's not bashing him, because he's just doing what fits the song, and I think that kind of fit the song.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think we can probably get into the songs now. And the first track we have, and the way we'll do this is I'm sure you have it in front of you too, but have the list of the Jay-Z track and the Beatles track. So
I got that.
First one we have the public service announcement, and that is cut up, or the beats are used with Long, Long, Long.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, that's just interesting. I always thought of Long, 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 not one of my favorite songs off the White Album personally. To me, it's I think of it as like a lullaby track and kind of puts me to sleep. But
I can see that.
There is also somewhat of a beat in it, and and that one guitar riff. I mean, he just took that part and was able to make a really cool sample about it. And then with the organ that just kind of is consistent throughout the song. Yep. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to start the album. And even though this was released as kind of an underground thing, I should say that this is the proper track order that I think we've all seen. It's not like, tracks are out there. I'm just saying, because it is a little more of a bootleg album.
Yeah, true. Like but the version I have is cut up the same way as it's listed here.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So the second track goes into What More Can I Say, with I know one of my favorite Beatles songs, and I'm sure it is yours as well, Why My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah, and again, that was the main one I was referring to when he talks about like more introspective kind of things.
Sure.
And it has just that darker feel to it. And it's funny because you can tell that, Danger Mouse did have to slow that one down a little bit.
Okay. I was gonna ask you because I have always felt that, and yeah, it did. It does slow down a little bit. I have noticed that.
But this was the one that initially got me, this song, and I liked it. I liked it so much that I listened to the version of What More Can I Say in the Black Album, and I was like, man, this is kind of weak.
Yeah, and I love. I mean, again, it's I think one of my favorite songs off the White Album. But he uses primarily the electric guitar, that's Eric Clapton playing that most of that part, isn't it?
Well, he's playing the solo.
Okay, so he plays the solo. Okay, and then there's the piano, and the way they're cut together and placed together, it sounds really, really nice. It has, like you were saying, a darker. I feel like a little more sorrowful feel to it. Mm-hmm. And one thing he doesn't do a ton, but in this song he does use some of the vocals of the song in the background. Typically on only a handful of them he'll use little snippets in here and there, but on this one he does use a little more extended period, I think of the vocals. So it's pretty cool. The third track in this, to me, this one kind of blew my mind a little bit. And what I love about it is, so it's Encore, but he uses Glass Onion and Savoy Truffle. So he uses two songs, and that transition, dude, is badass, right?
I know, and it's really weird because I mean they work in the keys that they're in, but I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have popped into my mind, but to hear them together, it is really cool.
Well, part of me wonders if while he was doing this, he had to kind of pair up certain songs and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do this song and with this track and this song with this track. I mean, I would love to find out more about his process of deciding and trying to choose which songs and beats to pair with like which vocals. But part of me wonders if he was like, oh, Glass Onion will work with Encore and Savoy Truffle. Okay, that'll work with Encore. Well, screw it. I'm not gonna do it just to one. I'm gonna split it, and he does.
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool, man. I love it, dude. I love it.
And I think moving with Glass Onion, the part that well, just real quick, the part that he uses is kind of the build up with the strings, and it to me it creates this tension that I really like. And it works well with the lyrics of Encore. Totally,
it does. So the fourth track, we have December 4th, along with Mother Nature's Son, which I think is the one you were talking about, has that, and he does a great job of chopping up the acoustic and the drum to just kind of like hold the beat. And it really, I like how he kind of drops, once Jay-Z's mom comes in and starts, saying her dialogue and her piece, he pushes everything back and kind of drops a lot of the beat part of it and everything. But then when Jay-Z comes back in, the beat really picks up again. So it's kind of a nice contrast of his part, his mom's part, his part, his mom's part, his part. I really like the way that goes and flows. Our next track, and you alluded to this earlier, the one that kind of sounds the most like the original, like the one off the Black Album, which is 99 Problems and Helter Skelter. And so tell me why do you feel that way?
Well, because the one that Ruben did, it's really like just kind of heavy and just, it just has that big driving note. And I mean, Helter Skelter is also built on just pounding on that E really hard, and that's why I think that they're similar.
Yeah,
they're the most alike.
Yeah. And for me as like a non-musician listening, I agree 100% that I had that in my notes where, because Helter Skelter is it's a harsh song, and it kind of comes in hard, and that's the same with 99 Problems. The way the way it just kind of comes in and rocks. I'd really like to think what Rick Rubin thinks of it. That would be kind of cool to hear just what his thoughts are.
I do listen to his podcast, and I have to think after just he seems like a really cool person, really introspective and smart. He seems kind of like a sensei, very wise, but I would have to think he likes it.
Sure. Is that
he's just like too cool not to get it.
Right, yeah. Is that the only song that he produced on the Black Album, do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I think so, because I think part of his thing is that I know the Neptunes did a couple, but I think he worked with a lot of different producers, because I know that moving on to the next track, I know that I believe that Timbaland did the version of Dirt Off Your Shoulder on the Black Album, which I actually do like that one too, off the Black Album.
I do. Was that one of the ones you were talking about where it might be equally as good? Or
yes.
Yeah. I'd have a hard time arguing with that too. It has a really cool sound just on the Black Album. It really does. It's kind of like a sound I haven't heard a lot on any kind of other song. So I think it's very, very unique, very unique. But in this one, so we have Dirt Off Your Shoulder, and that's paired with Julia. And I love the opening guitar cut up that he does, and he also does kind of this is one of the songs where he does include a little bit, like a little partial of John's vocals, and then him humming. And it works really well, and you can tell, dude, he put a lot of work into cutting this one up. There are so many cuts, and they come so fast.
It's really interesting. That
dude, I don't even like. Dude, can you imagine like looking at that Pro Tools session?
Oh,
like what that looks like?
Just dude, like a loaf of bread.
Yeah, totally,
just
man.
All the splices in it. Yeah.
Dude, just that makes my head hurt just thinking about it.
I know. Now, if you think about Change Clothes and Allure, I feel like these ones are both similar in content, but the samples he uses are also I don't know, these songs feel alike to me, and I love that he uses piggies on Change Clothes. I think that was the harpsichord part where they're kind of bouncing around. But the one that always blew me away was using just that one hit with all their background vocals from Dear Prudence on Allure. Like that coming in on that D with it's really nice.
And when I was listening to this one, I was like, okay. I mean, and you have to be an insane Beatles fan to be like, until you get to the end where there is the guitar part, and you're like, oh, that's Dear Prudence. But to know that is Dear Prudence. Okay, well, you're an insane Beatles fan, obviously. Yeah. But dude, part of me is saying, dude, all right, send that shit to EMI and be like, hey, all right, if you guys can pick out what Beatles song this is, we will not put out the album. You get 5 guesses. You get 5 guesses or something like that. Yeah. Like, dude, I mean, it's almost unrecognizable unless there's
no Shazam,
someone like yourself.
No anything else.
Yeah. Now before we move on to the next one, I think we might have actually skipped a track, because what I have is after Dirt Off Your Shoulder, Julie, I have Moment of Clarity with Happiness Is a Warm Gun. Is that what you have on your track?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we talked about that one.
No. To me, it actually it starts off very similar to Dirt Off Your Shoulder, where with the guitar and some partial vocal from John. And dude, the cool thing about it, and I know this is one of your favorite parts of Happiness Is a Warm Gun, is just the nasty guitar that sounds like, what is it, like the old dot, like, is it the dot matrix printers?
Printer,
yeah.
Yep.
Dude, just that scratch and move.
Man, they were
crushed it.
So good at that, making those guitars just
roll.
That's the only thing I can compare it to is an old dot matrix printer. And dude, it's funny because in working
that
on
doesn't
my
even do it
music,
justice.
like I want that sound. Like that's like a sound that I try to get.
Oh man, yeah, it is such a unique sound and so nasty and then so pleasing at the same time. It's
I
crazy.
know.
So I think okay, then moving ahead, we are now
Skipping
at,
around.
Looks like it looks like we're skipping around. Yeah, looks like "Justify My Thug" with Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah.
And dude, to me, Rocky Raccoon has always been just a funny song. You know, it's yeah. But go ahead, yeah. What are your thoughts?
No, I was gonna say not too dissimilar in the way it starts. I don't think from like Moment of Clarity and or Dirt Off Your Shoulder with kind of that guitar, and then again
the acoustic strumming
gets into yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's the acoustic strumming. It's on repeat, and then there is the harmonica sound that they do bring in. And it's really it's really cool, and I've always said like Rocky Raccoon is, you know, we were talking I think on our previous episode about Paul Simon always doing like a story and stuff like that, but Rocky Raccoon is such a story song, but then in part of it, you know, if you listen to the words in Rocky Raccoon, it's kind of it's a darker song, but like you were saying with what some of this has done with the Black Album is it's giving a much darker feeling, and I definitely feel the Rocky Raccoon part definitely gives it that much darker aspect to it. So
you
know, moving on here, we got Lucifer with Revolution 9, I'm So Tired. So this is another one that he takes two songs and puts them in there, and it's, dude, this one again, like I forget what the previous one where I was like, dude, oh, it was Dirt Off Your Shoulder with Julia. That makes my head hurt, dude. The editing on this one,
I know,
dude, I know, crazy, man.
And it's basically like, to me, it's like his iteration of Revolution 9.
You're 100% right, because not only does he cut up Revolution 9, and not does he cut up I'm So Tired, but he cuts up the a cappella vocals of Lucifer too. Yeah. And so it's like everything is just going crazy, man. It's really good. And you can definitely hear the I'm So tired sample. And it's a lot of it is the part it's with John. And it's like you were saying, it's just so minute, these little things where he says, I'm so. And it rocks back and forth a little bit at different lengths, and there's almost no consistency to it. And it's just the editing. It's very impressive. I can appreciate that so much.
Oh yeah, the editing is amazing. But I will say this is one that I would argue, or at least for me, I mean that song that Kanye West used on the Black Album, Lucifer. Where he did the beat on this, that is a fantastic beat. It really is.
It is. Yeah, it's one that stands out to me, and I really really like it as well. That is definitely one of my favorite songs off the Black Album for sure. So now we move to the last one, the last song, which is actually my first song, which is a mix of Cry Baby Cry, Savoy Truffle, and Helter Skelter. So he's taken 3 Beatles songs, and there's a lot of kind of sharp.
And this is a crazy ass editing one too.
Yeah. Oh, it is
from an editing perspective. And for some reason, I really like Jay-Z's lyrics on it, because it's just kind of all over the place, and I think it's kind of like, to his point, where I think the line that sums it up best in the song, that for him sums up this whole song, is like, "Fuck it, man, I'm gonna go golfing."
Dude, I love it, man, because that's the exact line. Dude, that's the exact line I have printed out in my notes here. He's like, "I'm about to go golfing. Fuck it, I might even get a cappuccino." It's like, dude, I want to live your life, man. That's badass, dude. Yeah. No, he's
shouting out to his family and friends and all that. I like that. It's a fun song, and again, crazy editing.
Yeah, crazy editing. crazy. So, well, should I give you the honor?
Get out your
should I give you the honors?
No, I feel
No, you
like
want me to take this one?
I kind of.
Okay.
I just took the T for Graceland because I was kind of right there. So I figure, Your Honor,
All right.
Your Honor.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So it is a song where I commented on it. I said I really appreciated the production of it, the editing of it. And I know a ton of work went into it. I mean, as with all of these songs on the album, but this one, and it's the Lucifer with Revolution. I'm so tired. I am so unbelievably impressed. And to be honest, we've done what, 8, 9? This might be our 10th Scratch a Track podcast where we've done 10 albums or something like that. This album for me might actually be the toughest one we've done so far, because I love all these songs. They are so good. And
I really struggled with Ziggy Stardust, I'm not going to lie, but this is a tough one.
Oh, okay. All right. And and I think with the only reason I can cut this one is because I feel like it's a song that I would never put on just by itself. I wouldn't all the other songs I would be like, "Oh, I want to listen to this one. Oh, I want to listen to this one." Where this one, I'm like, okay, I could skip it. And I think it's only 2 minutes. It's a really short song. But it's definitely one I could I think I could skip, even though every time I listen to it, I probably don't. So I think that's mine.
Yeah, probably the first time since the dawn of our podcast where we're on the same track. But dude, I have to say that would also be mine. Again, awesome editing, but yeah, for me it's just I understand why, because to me it, like I said, it is like the Revolution number 9 of this.
It is
mashup, deconstruction, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I've skipped over it before on purpose.
Right.
On purpose.
Right. Absolutely. Now, once upon a time, my friend, we did say that if we had a tie, we got to have a tie breaker. And I know I might be putting you on the spot here.
Oh,
so
damn.
I would be happy to go first while you think about it and you think about what your tiebreaker song is. So for those of you at home who don't know about this, I think to this point, we have not, in our podcast history, we have not both agreed on the same song that we would skip. And so offline, we kind of decided, well, if we pick the same song, then that kind of cancels it out and we both got to pick another song. So in my mind, for some reason, I had a feeling you might pick that one. So I already had a backup. And I had, let's just say I had a scratch B.
I'm ready with it. I mean, I didn't need a lot of time to think.
Okay. I have a feeling it might be the same one as you too, dude.
And then what?
It's going to be, I don't know, dude. I think at that point, we got to call it because the other songs are too damn good. I don't want to scratch any more off, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude. So,
all right,
I think
let's
that's
do
the
this
limit.
and then on 3.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Justify
99
my
problems.
thug.
Oh, okay, we're different. All right, we're different. Okay, so mine was 99 Problems, Helter Skelter. And I'll explain that. So if I had to do my B, it would be that. And the reason is because both you and I said it was very similar to the original in just kind of the feel. And it's also a hit song. I like it. I think it's good. Side note, and we'll do a White Album Scratch a Track one of these days, and I don't know if Helter Skelter will be it. To be honest, I've never been crazy about Helter Skelter, man. I've never been. Man. The Beatles, it's just never done it for me. And that doesn't mean that it's not great here, and it's not great with 99 Problems, but I'm good. Like I could skip that one. I've heard 99 Problems a billion times. I think it is a great song, but But all the other ones I kind of like better. I just do. So that's why I do that.
No, that's fair. I guess for me, I would do Justify My Thug just because
Okay.
Harmonically, there's some things that to me don't quite work when the female voice is singing Justify My Thug. It kind of doesn't quite mesh with the key perfectly of Rocky Raccoon, and for that reason, it just kind of like every time I hear that, it kind of just makes me cringe just a little bit because it's just a little off, and maybe that's part of the point, but for me, that's the reason why I think I could easily.
What's the point, Ventura?
Yeah, that would be my secondary scratch.
Okay,
if you had to. If you had to.
Gosh, a wise man once said that. I think he was full of shit personally, but all right. Well, my friend, I think that wraps up another fine episode of Scratch a Track, presented by the Dude and Grim Show, as if people out there didn't know, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone, that wraps it up. Again, we got some more coming. We got plenty more coming because there is no shortage of albums, none. And we're going to keep it going, so we hope you keep listening.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More, that's ... M-O-R-E, and the Tims, Timnz. Copyright 2020, The Dude and Grim Show.